Unleash the power of your training. Welcome to Total Well-Being and its Impact on Business Performance. Here are your hosts, Paul Sherman and Stephanie Stiles.
We have a lot of great packed information, so I'd like to welcome our special guest, co-founder of Ask What Matters, a global well-being training and coaching company. He has delivered human performance solutions to over 100 organizations worldwide in various industries during his 30-year career. He's a recognized expert in well-being, team coaching, and leadership development. In 2016, he published his book, Ask What Matters, A Practical Approach to Your Total Well-Being. Please welcome Paul Sherman.
Thank you. Good. I was going to say good morning because I'm in California. It's 9:19 here, but I'm assuming you're all in different time zones than I am. So hi, whether it's morning or afternoon, welcome to our well-being session. It's great to have you here. Interactive workshop. This is not death by PowerPoint, although we do have PowerPoint today. Where we're heading. We're going to start by talking about the business case for well-being. Why are we, this is a business conference. Why are we talking about well-being at a business conference? We're then going to talk about how does one create well-being? And that's sort of what I'll call the secret sauce, that well-being is something that doesn't happen by accident, that we actually have to actively participate in our own well-being. And we'll end the session with an exercise for you all, a tool that is a core tool in the Ask What Matters toolkit. And my approach to well-being is called Ask What Matters. And you'll know a little bit more about why it's called that in just a little bit. I'm not going to go through this again because Stephanie gave the verbal introduction, but basically, here's my street cred. It's like, why should I be listening to this guy about well-being? This is me. So that's who I am. So in the interest of interactivity and having this be a workshop, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. And Stephanie, what I'm doing is I just clicked polls, and you should all see something that says, if you all click polls, it says, how often do you experience an uncomfortable level of stress in your life? So if everybody can click poll, take that poll. Everybody seeing that? It's spring. Okay. Because what I'm going to do is I'm assuming everybody has been able to give this is anonymous, by the way, so I don't know how you're voting here. So I'm going to go ahead and click show results and see what we got. Oops. I am not getting show results. Do you all see results?
Yes.
You are seeing the results.
Yes, Paul. So we have 33.3% for several times a week, and we have 66.7% for several times a year. And no one weighed in on every day, several times a month, or never.
Okay. Well, this is interesting, folks. I want to give you the general statistics on stress, because when you think about well-being, the sort of kryptonite to well-being is stress. Some interesting info for you all. So according to the American Psychological Association, 70% of Americans regularly, and when we say regularly, this is monthly or weekly, experience an uncomfortable level of stress that is negatively impacting well-being. Okay. And we ask the question, so what is the impact of that on our businesses? Check a look at this. This is, by the way, pre-pandemic data. So can you even imagine? So look at this day. So, and even before, by the way, item number 2 there, that the World Health Organization before COVID was calling stress the #1 health epidemic of the 21st century. So around stress, there's performance ramifications. Stress decreases productivity, and there are also medical expenses as well. So it's a double hit about what stress is doing to our businesses. Now, this work is highly personal to me. Yeah, Janet, isn't that crazy? It's an incredible number. This work is personal to me. I've been in the human performance field for 30 years. I've burnt out 4 times. And after the last burnout, this is me in 2012, I basically said no more burnouts. And what I did was I shifted my business to focus on well-being. And because it was a physician heal thyself moment, and that's what brought me into this work. So this stuff is really personal for me. So what is well-being then? Well-being is us as human beings at our very best, at our most grounded, most creative, least reactive, most leader-like selves. When we are in well-being, we are the CEOs of our life. And the term wellness has been around in business parlance for many, many years. Wellness traditionally has been the physiological aspects of health. Things like smoking cessation programs, diet, exercise, drug, alcohol intake, moderation. What well-being is fundamentally about is a higher level total human condition. And there are 3 pillars of well-being. Having a sense of purpose. So when I get up every day, do I have a sense of meaning? Whether it's through my job, through my family, through my community involvement, do I have a sense of this is why I'm here? Purpose. Health, I mentioned the wellness component. So obviously there's the physiological health side of things. And there is the emotional health. So where is my level of anxiety, stress, worry? So physical health, emotional health. Last pillar of well-being, connection. So there's research out of Harvard Medical School. There's been an 80-year study that basically says that loneliness and isolation is as deadly to one's health and well-being as if you were a smoker. And so what happens is the whole movement from wellness, which companies have been looking at over the years, that companies now get to look at well-being and are creating opportunities for your people, for your employee stakeholders to have a sense of purpose, a sense of health, and a sense of connection. And that there's actual research that shows there are well-being indices. There are well-being indices that show that when an employee has a higher sense of well-being, they're 88% likely to feel more engaged at work. They're 83% versus 41% reporting to enjoy their work. 84% to 54% likely to be loyal to their teams. And this last one, if I have higher well-being, I am more likely to recommend my place as a great place to work. Bottom line here, well-being is a critical success factor in business, and the stats speak for themselves. Before I move on into, I promised to talk about the how of well-being. What I wanted to do is just open it up for any comments around sort of the rationale of well-being, why we're talking about it, what it is, and what the business case is. So I'll pause and open up to the floor. Thoughts, comments? Have you seen any changes with people working from home more? Yes, and it's actually with COVID has negatively impacted people because they are overstimulated and they are juggling, especially those with children and are dealing with homeschooling, that it's become even more, that people are even more under siege. So that's what we're seeing in COVID. And Janet says it can totally relate to the kids at home, adding to the stress for sure. Any other comments, thoughts about what well-being
Yeah, I've got one.
business case? Yeah, Nathan, go for it.
Hey, so it was interesting when you put up the poll. It says uncomfortable levels of stress, and I kind of go two different directions with uncomfortable levels of stress because.
Oh, I think you may have cut out on this. So Nathan, try the chat. The technology gremlins are
working against us. Yes. Yeah. So Nathan, if you can hear us, please utilize the chat.
Yeah, and I'm going to anticipate what your question is, Nathan. So there are two types of stress. There's stress that is, I'll call it positive performance stress, that gets us into a place where we are motivated and just enough adrenalized to get the blood going. When you get to a place of cortisol and adrenaline overload, that is when your cognitive, so thinking processes are affected, and you have a negative emotional and physiological reaction. So when we talk about uncomfortable levels of stress, it's stress that is impacting my cognitive and emotional state.
Awesome, thank you.
Does that address your question?
Yes.
Awesome. Stephanie, great. I want you at all of my presentations. I got my own little transcriber here. This is great. So I'm going to skip ahead to a couple of slides. This, by the way, is where the reason that our well-being is under siege is that we're DOS computers trying to run Skype, Netflix, and things like that. Our human operating system is on overload. And just think about even going to the grocery store. This is the lettuce aisle. So what happens is, without even knowing it, our well-being is under siege because we're overstimulated. 24/7 news cycles, email. So our well-being, so what we get to do as employers is help people learn how to live in the 21st century. That's actually now an employer mandate, believe it or not. Now, this is the how of well-being. And there are 5, and this is what excites me about well-being, is that it is a teachable and learnable skill set. What this framework does is it says, if you can learn how to incorporate these 5 practices into your life, stop and ask, reach in, reach out, plan and act, and these mindsets of gratitude, self-honesty, curiosity, kindness, and humor, that if you can learn how to do these things, this is the secret sauce of well-being. And I'm going to do a plug for my book, because what my book does is it's the manual of how to do these things. And what I'm going to do is a quick go through of, oh, thanks, Janet. Janet says the secret sauce of well-being. So the name of my book, and Stephanie, if you can put this in here, it's Ask What Matters, A Practical Approach to Your Total Well-Being. And what I'm going to do is give you the Cliff Notes version of each of these practices. And again, a practice is just a habit, and each of these mindsets. So how do we create well-being? Stop and ask. Practice regular self-reflection. And what that means is, the reason that this framework is called Ask What Matters is there's research out of Carnegie Mellon University that says that when we are clear about what matters to us, just by being mentally aware of what matters to us, it becomes a blocker to cortisol and adrenaline, which are the fight or flight chemicals. So knowing what's important to me, what my values are, where my priorities are, just knowing that is a grounding mechanism that blocks cortisol and adrenaline from hurting you. Secondly, if you are aware of the choices that you're making on a daily basis and how they align with what matters, that your well-being goes up. So I'm aware of what matters to me, and I'm actively choosing to align my daily activities, my daily expenditure of energy and effort to those things that matter to me. Well-being fundamentally begins with a level of consciousness that we in the 21st century, because our human operating system is on overload, we have to learn how to go to the mind gym and be super aware of what matters to us and the extent to which our daily choices align to what matters to us. The second aspect of this framework we call reach in. Reach in is fundamentally about having a good relationship with self. What does that good relationship with self look like? For a moment, I want to ask you all a question. This is Managemental Chatter. In the chat, how many thoughts do you think that the average human being has on any given day? Type into the chat. The average number of yes, Janet, any thoughts? The average number of thoughts that you think a human being has in any day. Tracy says several hundred. Oh, Nathan, you're really close. You got a few more zeros that are on there. The average human being has 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 thoughts. What percentage of those thoughts, of the 60,000, do you think are negative? So we have 60,000 thoughts a day. What percentages of those thoughts are negative? Janet says at least half. Tracy says most. Nathan says 50%. The answer is 70%. 70% of our thinking is negative. And why? Because we're wired to overestimate danger in our world. So a core well-being skill we call reaching in and learning tools to manage mental chatter. Many tools out there for doing that. There are mindfulness tools. There are cognitive behavioral restructuring tools. So what you get to do, some people, by the way, in terms of managing mental chatter, I have people in my workshops that are adult coloring book people, hula hoopers, whatever you get to do. The thing about well-being is I say that well-being is personal. So you get to, in the reach in practice, identify those personal habits that allow you to manage your mental chatter and practice regular self-care. So well-being starts with asking and knowing what matters and making choices that align with that. B, actively managing your mental chatter and doing self-care activities, body, mind, and spirit. And the next is reach out. A core well-being skill is asking for and offering help. And we are, because of our pioneer frontier roots, we have basically become, we've created some stigma around asking for help. And what we get to do, and there's research out of McKinsey that tells us that companies where people are asking for and offering help outperform, and this is across industries, across multiple key performance indicators, across multiple industries. If you create a culture of asking for help, your key performance indicators across multiple industries are going to go up. It is a core well-being skill to be an octopus and not a turtle. Ask for help. It's that simple. And there's actually something called the helper's high. When people like to, I do it in my workshops. I give a poll and I ask people, what percentage of you are reticent to ask for help? 70% of my respondents usually say they were reticent. You can up your well-being just by asking for help. Plan our next practice in the Ask What Matters Wellbeing framework. Actively thinking about the future that you want to create. And in that, I call that big P planning and little p planning. So big P, what's my big future? What do I want my life to look and feel like a year from now, 5 years from now? Some people don't know the answer to the big P plan, and that's okay. But what you get to do, and what's an imperative as a well-being skill, is little p planning. What do I want today to look like? What do I want this week to look like? What do I want this month to look like? And the question that you ask in big and little p is what I want more of and what I want less of. And in doing that, I want more. For example, I want more joy. I want less stress. And what do I need to do, which is our next practice? What do I need to do to create what I'm saying I want more of and less of in my life? And what happens with action, most people not most people, many people don't take action because they're afraid that they're not going to get it right. Take action. Imperfect action is okay. You don't have to wait for the best outfit, the best weather, the best whatever. Just do something. You also don't have to boil the ocean. A small A action. Let's say I'm looking at improving my health. A small A action. Gee, I'm not going to have that Red Bull today. I'm going to have a glass of water. A big A action. Gee, I'm obese and I'm going to have gastric bypass surgery. A big A action. Small A, big A, just do something. And set yourself up for accountability. Oh, Janet, walking with her hubby every day. Yes, that's a great small A action. And accountability. You are 35%, this is research out of Temple University, you are 35% more likely to follow through on a commitment that you make if you write it down and you share it with somebody. So that's how you make sure that you follow through on your well-being action. Stop and ask, reach in, reach out, plan and act are the doing of well-being. The being of well-being is to create, these are all mindsets. All a mindset is it's the binoculars you see the world through. And if you can learn and teach yourself how to see the world every day, identify 3 things that you're grateful for. Write it down. You will be putting into your mental bank account. Well, you'll be building resilience. When you do gratitude every day, when things are hitting the fan in your life, you have a bank account of gratitude to call upon. Self-honesty. What is it that's true for me? Truly looking in the mirror. And that gets back to asking and living what matters. Curiosity. Instead of going to that judgment place, be open. Be open. Come from a place of wonder. Judgment shuts people down. Curiosity opens you up. Kindness, not only to others, but kindness to self. Practicing self-compassion. And humor. How do you bring some lightness? Find something to bring a sense of humor to. So in summary then, our framework for well-being, stop and ask, reach in, reach out, plan, act, and all the while incorporating these mindsets. And I want to leave you with this final thought, which is at the end of the day, I'm going to read you this Nelson Mandela quote. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. Because when you do these 5 practices and 5 mindsets, you get to a place where you're choosing. And that's the essence of well-being, to make choices. Thanks for joining me. You've just gotten well-being bathed with a fire hose.
Thank you so much, Paul. We certainly appreciated all the information that you gave me and our guests here. And, you know, I had a key takeaway that I have done that I wanted to share as well. My kids, we would go around the table every evening and say 3 things about what you saw was beautiful today. And you start that little habit and it just plays throughout. So I think just taking little bits of information in order to assist your well-being. So thank you all for
Amen.
joining us.